Jnanakosha Vedas Atharvana Veda by pact.
ॐ गणानान्त्वा गणपतिगं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपवज्रवत्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणान् ब्रह्मणस्पतकान् शृण्वन्नोतिभिः
Atharvana Veda, Annapurna Upanishads, Part 2. Nidagha. What is the nature of liberation without the body? Who is the great sage in possession of it? Restoring to which yoga has he achieved that supreme status? Ribhu. In the region of Sumeru, the celebrated sage Mandavya, resorting to truth, Kaundinya became liberated in life. Having attained the status of Jivanamukti, that foremost knower of Brahman, the great sage made up his mind once upon a time to withdraw all his sense organs from their respective objects. He sat in the lotus posture with eyes half closed, slowly avoiding contacts with objects external and internal. Then he, with his sinless mind, reflected on the degree of steadiness of his mind. Clearly, though withdrawn, this mind of mine is extremely restless. It wanders from a cloth to a pot and thence to a big court. The mind wanders among objects as a monkey does from tree to tree. The five openings, eyes and so forth, known as the sense organs of cognition, I am watching carefully with my mind. O you sense organs, slowly give up your mood of agitation. Here I am, the divine spiritual self, the witness of all. With that all-knowing self I have comprehended the nature of eyes. I am completely secure and at peace. Luckily I am fearless. Insensately I rest in myself. The fourth, my vital breaths, its extensions have all in due order subsided within. I am as a fire with its multitudinous flames. When the fuel has been consumed, it blazed forth but now is extinguished. The blazing fire has indeed been extinguished. Having been purified utterly, I remain equable, enjoying all alike as it were. I am awake, though in deep sleep. Though in deep sleep, I am awake. Resorting to the fourth, I remain within the body with a stable status, having abandoned, together with the long thread of sound reaching up to Om, objects in all the three worlds fashioned by imagination. As a bird for flying in the sky leaves the net in which it was enmeshed, the great sage sheds identification with the sense organs, then he sheds his awareness of limbs which has become illusory. He has won the knowledge of a new-born infant, as if the air should give up its power to vibrate. He has terminated the proneness of consciousness to attach itself to objects. Then, attaining the unqualified state of consciousness, the state of pure being, resorting, as it were, to the state of dreamless slumber, he has stayed immobile like a mountain. Winning the stability of dreamless sleep, he has attained the fourth. Though gone beyond bliss, he is still blissful. He has become both being and non-being. Then he becomes that which is beyond even the range of words, which is the nihil of the nihilist and Brahman of the knowers of Brahman, which is the pure blemishless cognition of the knowers of the cognition, the Purusha of the Sankhyas and Ishvara of the Yogins, the Shiva of the Shiva Gamas, the time of those who affirm time alone as the basic principle, the final doctrines of all Shastras and what confirms to every heart, which is the all-pervading reality, the truth. He has become that, the unuttered, the moveless, the illuminator even of lights. The principle whose sole proof is one's experience of it, he has remained as that. That which is unborn, deathless, beginning, less, and the first immaculate state, whole and imparted, he has remained as that, a state subtler than that of the sky. In a moment he has become the hallowed God. Has the Jivan Mukti characteristics like the power to fly in space? If so, great sage, it is not present in the perfected man. O Brahman, a non-knower of the self, still in bondage, achieves to fly in space by virtue of specific substances, incantations, practices, and potencies of time. This is not the concern of the self-knower. One having contentment in oneself never hangs after in phenomena of nescience. Whatever objects are present in the world are held to be of the stuff of nescience. How can the great yogin who has dispelled nescience plunge into them? Whichever confounded person or man of little understanding desires the group of yogic powers achieves them, one by one, through set practices instrumental to them. Substances, incantations, actions applied at the right time yield yogic powers all right. None of them lifts man to the status of God. Only influenced by some desire does make man work of miraculous powers. The perfect man, seeking nothing, can have no desire whatsoever. When all desires dry up, O sage, the self is one. How can the mindless desire miraculous powers? The man liberated in life would feel no surprise were the sun to radiate cool light, the moon's scorching rays, or the fire to blaze downwards. The whole world is superimposed on the supreme reality, the ground as the snake is on the rope. No curiosity is aroused as regards these superimposed wonders. Those indeed who have known what is to be known and shed all attachments, whose intellect is great, the knots of whose hearts have been cut, are free, though living in the body. Dead is his mind who is unmoved in joy and sorrow, and whom nothing jerks out of equality, even as breaths stir not a mighty mountain. Dead is the mind of one who is undisturbed by danger, resourcelessness, energy, hilarity, dullness, or great rejoicing. The destruction of mind is twofold, determinate and indeterminate. In the state of liberation in life, it is determinate. In that of disembodied liberation, it is indeterminate. The presence of mind makes for sorrow. Its destruction promotes joy, attenuate the existent mind, and bring about its destruction. The nature of mind, know, is folly. O sinless one, when that perishes, one's real essence, mindlessness, is one. The mind of one liberated in life, having qualities like friendliness, rich in noble impulses, it is never reborn. The destruction of the Jivan Mukta's mind is determinate. Nidagha, with disembodied liberation comes indeterminate destruction. One liberated in disembodiment is he who realizes the partless self. His mind, the abode of all excellent qualities as it was, is dissolved. In that supremely holy, blemishless status of disembodied liberation, marked by mindlessness, in that state of indeterminate destruction of the mind, just nothing remains, neither qualities nor their absence, neither glory nor its absence, nothing whatsoever of the world, neither sunrise nor sunset, neither sensations of joy or anger, neither light nor darkness, neither twilight, day nor light, neither being, non-being, nor centrality marks the status of disembodied liberation. The spacious status of those who are liberated in disembodiment, who have gone beyond intellect and the pomp of worldly life, is like the sky, the abode of the winds. The great Jivan Muktas, whose bodies are the subtle ether, become disembodied there in the state of disembodied liberation. All their sufferings are cured. They are immaterial, totally quiescent, immobilized in bliss beyond rajas and tamas. In that state dissolve the remnants of their mind. O great sage Nidagha, rid your mind of all latent tendencies, concentrate your mind forcefully, and go beyond all mental construction. That eternally self shining light, illuminating the world, is alone the witness of this world, the self of all, the pure one. As massed intelligence, it is the ground of all beings. That non dual Brahman, characterized by truth, knowledge, and bliss, is the object of knowledge. The sage fulfills his duty with the realization: I am the one Brahman. Brahman is the ground of all, non dual, supreme, eternal, of the essence of being, intelligence, and bliss beyond the range of word and mind. There shine not the forms of the moon and the sun, the winds blow not, and none of the gods are there. This divinity alone shines forth as being, pure by itself, free from rajas. The knot of the heart is split. All doubts are cut asunder. All his actions dwindle when he, who is both here and beyond, is seen. In this body are the birds called the Jiva and the Lord dwelling together. Of them the Jiva eats the fruit of action, not the great Lord. Alone as the witness, without participation, the great Lord shines by himself. Through Maya is set up the difference between them. Spirit is other than its form. As it does not dwindle, the spirit is non-different from all objects. As the unity of the spirit is established through reasoning and means of right knowledge, once that unity is comprehensively known, one no more sorrows, nor is one deluded. Having the certain knowledge, I am the ground of the whole world, solid truth and knowledge, the sage may dispel sorrow. Those whose flaws have been attenuated realize in their own bodies the witness of all, whose essence of self luminous being, not those others who are encompassed by Maya. Knowing him alone, let the intelligent Brahmana build up wisdom. Let him not dwell on a multitude of words that only makes for verbal weariness. Having mastered the knowledge of Brahman, let him live in childlikeness alone. Having mastered both Brahma knowledge and the childlikeness, the sage possesses the self. Know the elemental body as the seed of the creeper of samsara, with its immense sprouts, good and evil, having their potencies latent. Of this body, the seed is the mind conforming to cravings. It is a sheath of active and quiescent moods, a casket holding the gem of pain. The tree of the mind has two seeds. One is the vibration of the vital breath, the other obstinate imagination. When the vital breath, aroused by nervous contacts, vibrates at once, the mind is transformed into a mass of sensations. That all-pervading awareness is aroused by the vibrations of the vital breath. It is better to suppress the awareness, less harmful in the vibration of the vital breath. For mental peace, the yogins suppress vital breaths through breath control, meditation, and practices dictated by reasoning. Know the supreme cause yielding the fruit of mental peace, the joyful self-abidance of our cognition that is known as breath control. Latent impression is said to consist in the sizing of an object, while the force of entrenched imagination, despite all considerations of cause and effect. Rejecting everything and imagining nothing, either to be chosen or rejected, the mind remains in self. Now is the mind unborn. Being continuously free from latent impression, when the mind ceases to ponder, there arises mindlessness that yields supreme tranquillity. When no aspect of objects in the world is imagined, how can the mind be born in the empty sky of the heart? The conception of a thing's absence is based on its non-being. Mindlessness is posited with reference to the object as such. The mind abiding coolly in itself after the inner rejection of all objects, though in modifications, is held to have the form of non-being. They indeed are deemed liberated in life, whose latent, unenjoyed impressions are like the fried seeds, incapable of sprouting any more. Their minds have acquired the form of sattva. They have gone beyond the further shore of knowledge. They are said to be mindless. With the fall of their bodies, they become sky-like. Due to rejection of objects, both the vibrations of vital breaths and latent impressions swiftly perish, as does a tree whose root is cut off. In this state of cognition, whatever appears either as experienced before or as altogether new must be meticulously wiped out by everyone whose knowledge is sound. The vast transmigratory life is due to the failure to obliterate them. On the contrary, liberation is held to be just their obliteration. Be material, spiritual, rejecting all pleasures and cognitions. Knowledge depends on the states of objects. One having no knowledge is non-cognitive. Though he performs 100 actions, he is held to be non-inert. He is said to be liberated in life, the clear sphere of whose emotions is not in the least affected by objects. His knowledge is spiritual. Due to the absence of latent impressions in the mind, when nothing is imagined, it remains steady with cognitions similar to those of children and the dumb. Now the sage is no longer affected, for he resorts to the vast intelligent non-making in the objective mode. Through the concentration of modellessness, rejecting all latent impressions, he becomes one with it in the infinite even that is dissolved. Though standing, walking, touching, smelling, the intelligent sage, devoid of all clingings, gets rid of fluctuating pleasures and the cognitions of the particulars. He is at peace. A shorelessness ocean of excellence, he crosses the sea of sufferings, because he resorts to this vision even in the midst of vexed activities. Devoid of all particular, the stainless pure being is one vast essence that is held to be the abode of immutable existence. Rejecting distinctions like the being of time, the being of instants, the being of entities, be solely devoted to pure being. Contemplating but one unqualified universal being, be omnipresent, full, supremely blissful, filling up all space. The pristine, inconceivable status, without beginning and end, that remains at the fringe of universal being is causeless. Cognitions dissolve there. It remains beyond the possibility of doubts. A man who reaches that returns to pains no more. It is the cause of all beings. Itself has no cause. It is the quintessence of all essences. Nothing is more quite essential than it. In that vast mirror of intelligence, all these perceptions of objects are reflected, as the trees on the bank are reflected in the lake. That is the pure, unobscured truth of the self. When that is known, the mind is tranquilized. Having, through knowledge, won its essence, you become truly free from the fear of samsara. By the application of the remedies mentioned by me for the causes of suffering, that supreme status is attained. O knower of truth, if by manly endeavour you forcibly eschew latent impressions and establish yourself all alone in that indestructible status, even for a moment, at the very summit of universal being, well, at this very moment you achieve it all right. If you sedulously cultivate the status of universal being, that status you will attain with somewhat greater effort. Nidhaga, if you stay meditating on the principle of cognition, through still greater effort you will win that exalted status. Or, sir, if you strive to shed latent impressions, that till the mind is dissolved, the latent impressions too are not at attenuated. As long as the latent impressions are not attenuated, the mind is not tranquilized. As long as the knowledge of truth is not won, whence can come mental tranquility? As long as the mind is not tranquil, truth cannot be known. So long as the knowledge of truth is not won, whence can mental tranquility come? Knowledge of truth, mind destruction, attenuation of latent impressions, these mutually cause one another. They are indeed hard to accomplish. Therefore, flinging far from you the desire for enjoyment, cultivate this triad. High souled one sought for long and simultaneously the attenuation of latent impressions, knowledge of truth, and the destruction of the mind are held to prove effective. By means of these three cultivated aright, the tough knots of the heart are shattered without residue, as are their threads when the lotus stalks are crushed. Truth knowers know that breath control corresponds to the equal of latent impressions, therefore, also practice this latter too by breath control. By echoing latent impressions, the mind ceases to be, also by obstructing the vibrations of the vital breath as you choose. By the steady practice of breath control, the exercise of reasoning taught by the teacher, the practice of yogic postures, and the regulation of diet, the vibration of breath is obstructed. Through behavior without attachment, avoidance of contemplation of birth, and the perception of the decline of the body, latent impressions cease to operate. The vibration of the vital breath is indeed the same as mind's vibration. The intelligent man should strive hard to conquer vibrations of the vital breath. Without sound reasoning, it is impossible to conquer the mind. Resorting to pure cognition and rejecting attachment, be steady. O great souled one, abide solely in the heart, contemplating without conceptions the pristine, single, matchless, and indubitable status of cognition without objects but perform action, having achieved the status of inactivity in the bliss of tranquil glory. The man who, through ratiocination in however small a measure, has slain his mind has achieved the object of his life.